Ready, Michael?
Yes.
You guys should join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome you to the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors business meeting for August 21st. The chair met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel and litigation. Next item is presentation items. I believe we have them
this evening.
Next item is subdivision land development projects. I believe we had 84 Clover Mill Road was pulled from the agenda.
Correct. They called it around 3:34 o'clock today and asked me to move from this evening's agenda.
Okay, so the next item would be 396 King Road. You want to come forward, please?
While they're setting up, Mr. Chairman, just for everybody, I think I advised the board and the applicant engineer already know, this is for presentation only tonight. So no action by the board will be taking place. Given, and I was at one of the planning commission, my staff was at the other, given some of the feedback and revised plans, we thought it'd be for the first time you've seen it. And the residents being here, that'd be for presentation only, but we would like your feedback. They'll listen to that and then staff and their team will work out any issues the residents still have, or if the board raises that the planning commission did not bring up. Planning commission did support it and recommended approval to be passed on to the board tonight. So with that being said, I'll turn it over.
You want to introduce yourself and very cool.
Sure. Good evening. Rob Cunningham with Holmes Cunningham Engineering. We're here, the 396 King Road. The Estates at Hilltop is a 6-lot subdivision on, I think it's a little over 36 acres. This is our first presentation. We've been in front of the planning commission about 3 times, going through some issues that they had. We met with residents. What essentially we have is a subdivision which creates a private road cul-de-sac with 6 lots, 5 new homes with the existing home to remain. The plan is for a private road, which is 20 feet wide, going back to a cul-de-sac with a large graft island. Homeowners association will be created. There'll be individual stormwater management for each lot. There will be on-lot well and septic systems for each of the homes. There'll be some improvements to King Road, but that was based off of some direction from Public Works and the engineer's office to kind of keep the character of King Road as it is today, but kind of upgrade it a little bit because it is a little narrow. So that's our project. We've gone through. We're in the process of working on our MPDS permit. The planning modules before you later in the agenda tonight. So we're moving the project along. So if you're answer any questions you may have, we can talk about. We've done the well study. We have a letter from Gilmore's office stating we satisfied the ordinance requirement related to that. Other than that, everything in Craig's latest letter, other than the waivers, is a will comply. So if you're answering any questions.
Before we get into questions, maybe I missed it, but the existing house is staying.
Yes.
And what's the range of the lot size? What's the minimum lot size you're proposing?
The smallest lot is 3.6 acres and the largest lot is just under 8 acres.
And the existing drive will basically be improved, but will be a private roadway.
So there's an existing driveway that leads back to the house now. It's about 12 feet wide. It's lined on both sides with evergreen trees. We'd like to keep that, widen it 4 feet on each side, or 2 feet on each side, 4 feet on each side. Make it 20 feet, as directed by the fire marshal, just so it has access for fire trucks. The cul-de-sac in the back is pretty large, again, for truck turning movements, and then everybody would take individual driveways off of that. So,
You said that the grassed island, where is that going to be? In the cul-de-sac?
in the cul-de-sac, and then it would be maintained by the homeowners association who maintains the road.
Is there room for a car to park and a car to pass by that?
In the circle, the paved area is 20 feet wide, so you can get 2 cars.
We have a development that has that, and its road is pretty narrow, and if someone's parked, you can't get by, so I just want to make sure that there's.
One of the comments from Gilmore was no parking.
No
on the
parking.
road. Yeah,
Not that people listen.
It's 20 feet though.
I'm just worried about access for fire engine. If someone happens to park there, will they, how can they?
Yeah, that's why we made it 20 feet all the way around. And it's a big loop, so fire trucks can get down through it easy.
You're not removing any trees along that driveway, are you?
a couple trees, to get the new driveways in.
Okay,
So the goal was to maintain as much of that.
yeah, that's why I know you want.
Yeah, those are substantial pine trees. We'd like to keep them as much as possible.
Maybe what I'll do is, since there's a bunch of residents here tonight, there's no major decision as far as public improvements, roadways. Planning Commission spent a lot of time with this project, so did staff, try to keep a rural setting design. We're not looking at major widening, we have to do some widening. Based on some back and forth with the engineers and Public Works, I think we'll probably recommend another meeting out there to look at the widening that's going to be proposed. We recommend a couple of feet. There's a swale, some utility poles. Obviously, if they don't do as much, we need Public Works to sign off on that in our office. Right now, our letter recommends some improvements, but they like to have they've been requesting another site meeting. So we'll have time to do that after this meeting, just to focus on the frontage improvement.
And then the main reason for that, just the timing of the meeting, was we want to make sure before it gets memorialized in any resolutions or approvals that you grant, we're all on the same page. And we've been out there, they've been out there. I'd like to be out there together so that we're all looking at it. Because last thing we want to do is do something that makes people unhappy.
Since there's numerous waivers, because of the design and layout that the applicants proposing and planning commission recommends, maybe what we'll do is I'll just kind of zip through the waivers real quick, if that's okay, instead of us a lot of back and forth. I'm just going to highlight some of the more significant waivers. We just mentioned section 705, the 2 feet widening for King Road. And we'll have a site meeting to determine the final design of that. We already mentioned section 705.3, which is the 20-foot private street instead of a 28-foot public cartway with curb and sidewalks. You're requesting a waiver from the milling. Again, we're working out with Public Works as far as where we can level off and fix the road instead of a full mill and overlay of the entire stretch. Again, we'll coordinate with Public Works on that. A waiver of the design of the cul-de-sac. So that is not a typical cul-de-sac bulb. As you know, we don't permit the grass center island, and also the dimensional criteria, trying to preserve all the trees in that area as much as we can. The near relief from the turnaround area and cul-de-sac. Curb and sidewalks would be waived on the private street and on King Road. So that's a big one. Again, Planning Commission, the applicant felt that given the nature of the layout in the area, they'd like to, obviously there's no sidewalks anywhere else on that stretch of King Road.
I'm gonna stop you right there. What if there's school bus service on that road? Where would any children be able to stand safely to wait for the school bus?
So we're doing a little bit of widening, and then at our driveway, we're providing the full widening and then a taper, so that at our driveway, the radius will be probably about 18 feet from the center line of the road. So kids would be able to stand at the end of the driveway while a car pulls over, and then obviously nobody should be passing the bus when it's stopped, but just to allow cars to do that.
Clear out to about 36 and 38 feet.
We had worked that out because for that reason, also for cars turning in, there's not a designated turn lane. And all of a sudden they abruptly stop and make a hard right. So we had already worked that out, and there'll be tapers at each,
Okay.
on each side. So that'll be where the kids can stand.
I'm sorry.
Obviously landscaping and trees, all our partial waivers. They'll supplement existing vegetation and buffering, street trees as well, where we'll do a more informal arrangement like we've done on other projects. I passed that information along where we can supplement existing trees. They're asked for a waiver of formal street lights, and in lieu of, we'll do driveway lamp posts. So we've done that in several other projects. And then the last comment is just, and they're aware of it, that any waivers of public improvements, there's a fee in lieu of, to be worked out with my office and our office on engineering costs that they don't, improvements they don't do. There's a fee associated with that. So those are the waivers that are all tied to this layout. And I think you commented all other issues or comments are will comply, Rob?
Yeah, will be addressed, yeah.
Okay.
And then just regarding the landscaping, we're planting all the trees that are required, but again, because there's a buffer along King Road already, we're gonna plant the street trees somewhere else on site to kind of supplement, but in no way are we, trying to defer the amount of trees.
I've met with the neighbors. Some of them had concerns about, the back of the new lots looking like them, even though it's a good distance away, I mean, acres and acres away, but we just talked about placing trees and, creating more of a buffer from the neighbors. And so we actually walked the entire site, everybody was invited, and we went and we did pretty much satisfy that. We told them what we were doing. They had some suggestions, just ensure Rob went and then moved them all on the plan. So what you see currently is what the neighbors and I have wanted, we were looking for as far as placement.
So that was the last comment is the wells. Rob did mention that everything's technically is a well comply with the revised study, which we reviewed and documented in our letter. There is a well depletion agreement. The township has that requirement in their ordinance. We've done it. The last one was Hallmark Homes, the assault tract. Okay, we heard that's
Curly Mill.
yeah. So I have that language. I know there's concerns on, someone raised, last week about well interference or well impact with their new wells, existing wells. All that's covered in the agreement with a substantial escrow that has to be worked out. We'll do all this at final approval. The applicant's aware of it. We haven't had to use any of these so far. I'm not saying we won't in this one, but the last couple of jobs, the winery or the vineyard was also another one that we did. There's agreements that have been the same agreements for years by the former solicitor. We'll have the new solicitor prepare those, make any changes. And I mean, there's several different clauses in here, but the developer agrees that it shall alleviate any existing problem or problems with increasing depth of affected wells or taking any other necessary steps to alleviate any problem at no cost or expense to property owners, as to also furnish any reasonable quantities and qualities of potable water, domestic or agricultural use during those times. That's all under our supervision as township engineer. And then obviously we get staff involved as needed. We haven't had to use this yet, but they will be signing this, will be a condition along with escrow. If one well is affected, they have to replenish the escrow just to cover if another well is impacted. But I don't think Joe's ever had any of these happen. He's done quite a few homes. But there are a couple wells that are very shallow.
Especially
in
with
the
the
area.
study that was done, the study's pretty severe to make sure like nothing could happen, and it's an intense study. And we've done it and we've tweaked it and we've worked it and we've made sure that everything was, satisfactory to everybody, your water guy. And so with that said, so much has been done there, like to really prove like it hasn't affected anything around us, that there's almost no chance that there's going to be, that we'll have to use that, but it's there, it's in place. Like other projects, same thing.
there was one item that we had talked about, the conservation excuse me, each lot, because it's in the WS district, has a conservation easement to preserve the undeveloped areas of that. As you can see, there are portions that will not be developed that are existing farm fields. Our intention was to just let them naturalize and, become meadow and maybe some woods and stuff like that. We've had questions, Joe in talking with realtors, about, is there potential that we could plant trees? If somebody could come who bought a lot, would be able to plant trees. I believe that the general conservation easement allows you to do nothing in there. And the point would be not to disturb earth or grade or do anything like that, but kind of,
If we want to add to it, like, we're not looking to put buildings or anything like that there. It's like, if someone wants to beautify their yard and put more trees, are they allowed to do that in an area that's conserved because of trees? Like, it makes sense.
I'd have to review the ordinance to
yeah.
see what it says. I can't give you an answer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
That'll be something to look into.
and I didn't have an answer either, so that's why.
Yeah.
But I like the idea.
Yeah.
That's what I want. If you guys are willing, I didn't have an issue with it, but it's anything, it's scope creep, it's.
Like, we could note it in there that even if it says,
We'll have to put in if you're okay with it and we work it out. It would be condition of approval, be noted on the plans, it would be deed restricted. I mean, we'd have every of what they can and can't do. And we can work that out before they, come to see you again. So that's the kind of stuff, why I only want a presentation. We need to, I don't mind working with them. What happens though is the way the ordinance is written is it's supposed to stay undisturbed. So you could have bare earth in some places. It's unsightly in other areas.
It's never gonna stay undisturbed. Even if you let it play, it's gonna turn into,
And would you like it overgrown or more, so.
Yeah, these are very high-end homes that are gonna go in there, and a lot of these clients have, landscape designers, and they want to beautify as much as they can.
Can you take one of the lots and show us like maybe a concept of what you want to do?
Mhm.
And then we'll use that as kind of just more of a visual for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then, do you have what you agreed to with the residents as far as the lighting? And is there anything memorialized?
It will be
Okay.
in the draft HOA docs, because
Right.
it's
Can
a restriction that we-
Can you
yeah.
send that to the staff?
Yeah, so what we had talked
Now.
about is neighbors were concerned about uplighting in the house, and like severe, like a lot of uplighting. And, quite honestly, I had no problem with working through that, because most of, in all the years I've done, I've never done more than 2 or 3 uplights. Like, people do soffit lighting, they do, driveway lighting, they do different things, low voltage stuff. But I don't have a problem with, putting in my homeowners association with what we had agreed on or come around to after a lot of talking about it is, I don't have to do this, but we're willing to put in the associated docs that there won't be more than 1,000 lumens pointing up at the sky or pointing up on the house. Like, so that might amount to 3 or 4 LED lights that produce, like, I think 1,000 lumens is like, I don't know how many watts. It's like 100 and something. It's actually pretty low. Rob assures me that it'll be okay, but I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be restricting these people with these homes and, landscape, everything they want to do to uplighting because of dark skies, affecting the sky. So, I'm okay with some of that. Like, to be honest with you, I don't think we need it, but if it makes everybody happy, I'm willing to put something in there. The other thing, I was after meeting with the neighbors on site, the Kellers to the right of us, they, had a concern like, well, these 3 houses in particular, lot 1, 2, and 3, the backs of the houses have a field, trees, and then their house, but they were still concerned about light in their bedroom window or something. So, concerned about that, I said, okay, I offered up the fact that I said, as far as spotlights on the house, that we would put in the association docs that lots 1, 2, and 3 will not have 2nd-story spotlights. They can only have 1-story spotlights to light their backyard. So, and I think that satisfied that scenario. So they're the 2 lighting things we're going to put in the association docs, just for the neighbors. that'll come up in the wrap
All
up.
right, so get that language to us, that way, we'll include that in the conditions of approval, and then also be in the basically saying it'll be in the HOA docs. And then if you want to look at the landscaping, what you like to do on the lots and the conservation easement, send me that stuff as well, and we'll look at staff and come up with conditions for approval.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have. I don't have any other issue to go over, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the board?
No, not this time. It all depends on the language of what we've already discussed. So,
I think I've asked my questions. I don't have any other questions.
I see we have a number of residents here that may be affected. Is there anybody here that has a question that they would like to address? You can just give us your name and address.
So my name's Kathy Keller, 432 King Road, adjacent to the new development. And I want to make sure I came because, you know, the wells are the biggest and the water is the biggest issue here. They've had many problems trying to get the water. So the main thing is, I know I sent stuff to the township, and I had a company, Montrose, a geoscientist, also do a plan. I'm wondering, did you all read that, or do you have that?
Mhm.
So according to their notation, there is a problem with the wells, especially on 1 and 6. They're proposing, because they're overlapping wells, extrapolated. I don't understand this. That's why I hired an expert. I just want to make sure our wells are safe. And according to this experts, they're not, especially across the street on the south side of King Road. So it would affect the Bermans, people, and it's all written in the things, in the report. So I'm hoping everyone really does read this, because it's not that easy. So not only are the wells may be affected on the new homes there, they may not have enough water. But across the street, my neighbors, well, can go dry.
I did review it. Did you bring the person that, assuming he's not here?
No,
Okay.
it's not here.
Uh,
He will be if you would like.
well, no, I mean,
You
the,
can also call him if you like.
he says the lots 1 and 6 wells may affect. You said there's a problem. We're aware of that. That's called interference. I think he mentions other places that's covered in our agreement. So that's very common where you're gonna have 2 cones overlap where there's a well. It's not uncommon. And that's why I wrote may. It's not, there is a problem. It's, there may be a problem, and we don't know until they're drilled.
Well,
And,
may means it could happen.
but what I'm saying is, if they meet the ordinance, and that's what the well depletion agreement is for that scenario.
So talking about the well agreement that we talked about at the last meeting at the township, Constantine was very adamant that there's no way anybody can prove that his wells is the cause of mine.
It won't be up to him, it'll be up to my office and my hydrogeologist. It'll be up to the township to decide to enforce the agreement. He'd have to hire a lawyer and fight that, and I don't think he would. I know him pretty well. We try to work out some agreement and figure it out. Lawyers cost more than drilling a deeper well. But yeah, I'm aware of that comment. The well depletion agreement is something that he has to comply with. All the other developers have done it.
So you're not concerned about the additional wells to the south side, or the wells that you're gonna propose for these 3 new houses, that they may go dry? And they may not be.
I
enough
can't
water.
predict that until that's why no one can predict that. My hydrogeologist has reviewed it, his staff, I've talked to him. I was so comfortable, I didn't need to bring him tonight. They didn't bring theirs. That's how comfortable.
We actually have.
We actually
Oh,
have,
you do? I'm sorry. I'll let him talk. Until they drill it and everything's developed, you just don't know.
and I just want to say, my guy is here to get the study, and what's mentioned in this report here is this cross thing. He explained to me, we did that kind of testing out there.
I know you did.
So it's.
They don't know
What
that,
he
yeah.
says there that he thinks may be a problem, we've already tested for that, it's passed.
It doesn't say in that letter that any wells are gonna go dry.
No, it doesn't. I think it's a little misleading to say there's issues. There's a potential for issues, just like there's the potential for a lot of things that could go wrong, once they're drilled, so. That's why we have to do an agreement. That's why there's development agreements for the site work and everything's secure, plans for security with the developer for site work, wells, the lighting, landscaping, everything is secured. And our office verifies all that. And this also goes 18 months past the last. So the occupancy permit, the last issued permit, for someone to occupy, I think it's 18 months after that. So it's not like once he's done, he's out of
It
here.
could be 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah, you're talking, and which actually I like, just like the vineyard. We get to see what the impact is after a couple are built, so he can't build them that quickly.
I assume the discussion, and I wasn't, the reason why I'm asking is because I wasn't part of the actual discussion, but I assume the discussion was that when you say that the well provisions will be in the homeowners association documents, you're talking about the recorded declaration that runs with the land. Okay. That means that anybody that would buy one of those homes in the future would be placed on notice of the existence of of those agreements as well.
So we have, the report that you issued to, or submitted to the solicitor and forward to me. In my opinion, everything is covered what he asked for, that there may be an impact on certain wells. I went through each condition. I think our agreement covers all that.
So even though that the 550 goes across the road off the development land, that doesn't matter?
But
No.
within so many feet, it's covered under the agreement.
So you cover all the neighbors on the other side of Kingman. So I just want to make sure that this is documented, because when there is an issue, it will be the township's responsibility.
Yes, you'll notify the township, they'll notify most likely my office, and then we'll be in contact with the developer.
So I also had a question about, I know to get the approval on the wells, you changed how many bedrooms were in the house, but not the square footage of the house or the actual, how many bathrooms and how much water is being run. It's just that you changed it from 5 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms. So how does that help the overall density of the water being used? If the square footage or the bathrooms or the running water.
They'll address that.
The water usage for the health department and the township is based off of a number of bedrooms. So by changing the study, we're changing essentially the maximum build out of each of the systems, well and septic systems, for each of the units. So I believe that the septic was always designed for 4 bedrooms and the well started at 5. But based on the comments, we had to adjust. So each of those would be limited to 4 bedrooms.
To 4. 4. I believe that's in our letter. Yes, that's in our letter. There's a potential buyer. I told the developer, potential buyer called questioning some things on the plan, which I get calls a lot. And after I was done with the doctor, I said, hey, I got a question for you. How many bedrooms do you build? And he said 3. So I said, all right, good answer. So believe me, I keep an eye on it, no matter what, even though we're working out a lot of things, there's a lot of time spent behind the scenes, but obviously we question everything that they say and it'll be documented. So that'll be a condition of approval. If they try to come in and do more bedrooms, that'll be in, on the township staff to enforce.
And you can't get a certificate of occupancy,
Right.
if you're in excess of that. So
I'd like to also, have on record that if my neighbors across the way there, if one of their wells if they were to go dry tomorrow and they drilled their well tomorrow, a new well, and then their neighbor went dry, would that be my fault? Sorry, didn't mean to bring that up, but, you know, this is all part of, you know, people can come in tomorrow, right next door to me on the left or on the right, and they could go and get a well permit, no studies, nothing. Pay the money, get a well permit, drill a well. Drill a new well, my well went dry. People came in here and said, well, you know, a few years ago, my well went dry. What would you do? You re-drill it. Did you hurt the guy next door? I don't think so. Like, I mean, so, you know, we're gonna do everything we're supposed to do.
Other questions?
I still have another question, sorry. This is a big thing for us, I mean, water is, you know, serious. So I know this is taking them many times to re-drill, refrac, you know, put stuff down the thing to make it work. So this has not been an easy tour. This is not a property that, you know, has easily access to water. So that should be taken into account. Because you're gonna have a lot of people in trouble if this doesn't go smoothly. And the same thing with the stormwater management. We've got 2 creeks that go into Peace Valley. And they're talking about widening the driveway. What are they gonna do with that culvert that goes down the creek and then goes down to Peace Valley? I'm not sure how they're gonna handle that either. So there's a lot of questions, really more to look at, other than, you know, the trees being planted and where we're at now, because there has been a lot that happened to get to this position with the wells, with the stormwater and management. And you're talking about trees. My house is right next to their conservation grounds. I'm just gonna plant a row of trees so I don't have to look at the development. That's not a problem. Whatever they wanna do on the other side of that, that's fine. But they said they weren't taking down any trees, any brush, they would keep the hedgerow. And I just want all that documented, because when they go to do it, things change and things happen. Did you have anything else? Because conservation should be like native woodland and meadow. I mean, there's nothing really designed for that. It's just, oh, just let it overgrow. So then you have your invasive species that come in and come across Bucks County. So you really do gotta take into consideration what you're planning in that area. So there's just a lot of little things that just have been passed. And
Is the creek, I think there's a creek going partly on your property and their
Yes.
property.
There's a creek that runs that way, and then there's one along the front.
General, I knew that one in front.
Well, mine in
there's
the back
right
is 40 acres.
past our house, down into the bigger creek. Where they're taking the bridge out and redoing the bridge in 2024. So there's a lot of conservation issues that should be looked at before all this is done.
Are you the one that did the improvements along the creek?
We
I
didn't do
saw-
any improvements.
You didn't do any of those improvements along the creek?
Planted the trees.
Yeah, along the creek
Yes.
and I saw some, I
Yes.
saw pictures, we were out there, okay. Cause I think that, I mean, they're gonna do the same, I mean, they're gonna do a lot more than that. But we haven't gotten all the details of that, but there's gonna be no stormwater that impacts your property. The creek is right there. They have to meet all the stormwater requirements. I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and argue over each single culvert, but they're meeting the requirements of the ordinance. If they don't, there's an operation maintenance agreement. Again, each property owner will have that, or I guess, yeah, each property owner will have one. We're doing individual basins.
We're doing individual.
Yeah, so this case will have 6 different stormwater operation and maintenance agreements that whichever property owner you feel is impacting your property will come out and inspect it and enforce it that way.
And so just to go through the stormwater, we have individual stormwater facilities. The increased impervious from widening the driveway and the road and all of those improvements are offset by enhanced larger systems on site. So what we're doing is capturing it closer up here well, that area we can't capture because it's within the riparian buffer. And it within the woodlands, so we're mitigating that by having larger systems on the lots, so.
When the project's complete, it's gonna reduce the stormwater issue from what it is now. It's not gonna get worse, it's gonna get better, because we're gonna be controlling it.
Any other questions from people in the audience? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, we'll get Craig the additional information and.
Mike, make sure that gets back to him so we can get the information, so we can move on this in September.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Craig, what's the conservation easement ordinance number, do you know? Okay.
There's not a separate order, it's probably in subject, I'll have to look at. it.
Souther,
Yeah.
it's in Souther?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next order of business is zoning hearing board applications. We don't have any at this point, right? No. Down to action items. Is there a motion to consider meeting minutes of the supervised meeting for July 17th?
I'll make that motion. I'll approve that motion.
For a second,
Second.
any questions on? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstained since I wasn't at the meeting and I have no idea what happened.
Next, item is to consider the schedule of bills. For motion,
I make that motion.
for a second,
Second.
any questions on the bills? Other than them being a large dollar amount. All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay. Next is a motion to consider the consent agenda
I'll make that motion.
to approve.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on those? All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item. Motion to consider the planning module for 396 King Road. A motion to approve. A motion.
I'll approve that motion.
Second.
Second.
For discussion here, since we're just talking about 396. This is a planning module for the sewer system that they're gonna be putting on lot that we have to file with the county to get their approval.
Actually, with the state requires 60 days for us to pass this on, for them to review and comment on it, so it's
Right.
good timing to have that started.
All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is a motion to consider closing all township offices on September 1st. Michael,
This was a discussion, I have with the board as, we have a number of holidays and things that the staff, works. Like the July 4th parade, which are traditionally days off for most people that we work. The board was interested in making sure that the public was aware, the office hours. So this is a way of saying thank you to staff for working those holidays and weekends by the board, but by also providing the public with adequate notice of the facilities being open and closed.
is there a motion of the board?
I motion to reject the idea.
There's a second to that rejection.
Myself. I will second that rejection. I would like to have a discussion about this. It seems that not all of the staff work on, I'm assuming it's 4th of July that we're talking about, since that was the last public holiday that our staff do work. And I'm not saying anything that our staff do not work hard, but we already give them PTO time for the day. So how is it that we're going to give them that day off and PTO? Are we going to say that I'm not opposed to them, for us to close the township building at 1 o'clock and let them have the afternoon for everybody, but not link it with a day that they're scheduled, not scheduled, but the day that they work for a family event for the township, we give them compensation, either pay for their hours or pay for their PTO. And now we're also having another day off. I'm very confused about how this came about, so.
My comments is this was never discussed at any board meeting. I don't know when and who discussed it, but it was never discussed as a board. The only thing we discussed as a board was the fact that we need to decide on what days the office would close early and make sure that those things were announced. Secondly, if we give everybody a day off because some people work the 4th of July parade, we're not actually rewarding the people that worked. We're just giving another day off. That's not in the schedule. And I am opposed to doing that because it does nothing to reward the people that actually work the 4th of July parade or will work the fall festival. I know there's many people that weren't here on July the 4th. They were on vacation. They're gonna get a day off. Why? I think it's a waste of township resources. I have no problem closing the office early. But to give a whole day and say it's to reward people for working events is just not true, realistic, or proper. It gives everybody a day off, so the people that actually work those events are not getting anything to reward them particularly for their efforts. We have a portion in our employment manual that says we can do comp time or other things for employees that work extraneous or extraordinary hours to do things. And I have no problem awarding comp time for people that do that. But to say we're going to close the office for an entire day for everybody, and I assume that means public works too, everyone except of course the police, who also worked the July 4th parade, but who were, in all fairness, everyone was compensated for that. And I don't believe, other than the police, it was mandated by anybody to do that. So I'm not in favor of doing it. I have no problem closing the office early, but we were supposed to pick the holidays that we were going to close early. And that hasn't been done. We're just taking the next holiday and putting it up. So I'll make a motion to close the office at 1 o'clock.
Hold on.
Okay,
We already have a motion and a second on the floor
okay.
to deny this motion. Any further discussion? Should we vote on that motion?
Yeah, I just I would prefer to have the discussion about what time we were closing rather than rejecting the motion altogether. But I think we've already put that out there with the motion to reject it, so we'll be forced to vote on that. But I am in favor of closing the office early and giving our staff a little bit of extra time off that day before a holiday weekend. I do appreciate the work that they've done. I recognize what you're saying, that not everybody works the holidays. I don't necessarily think it's a direct reward for that. But I think it is important for the general public to know when we're going to be closed an entire day or when we're going to be closed early more than the day before.
Yes,
Would you like?
Supervisor Jones, you could accept a friendly amendment of the motion if you
Well,
choose
that's what I'm
to. do so.
asking
Yeah.
right now.
okay, I was gonna ask.
He was-
Okay, I would like to
Well-
accept, he said to accept a friendly emotion,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
amend the motion.
modification.
Friendly amendment.
Mary Beth made the
Mayor and
motion. I
Beth
think.
made the motion.
I withdraw my
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
previous motion and will now the floor is open to.
I would like
okay.
to modify Supervisor McCabe's motion to close early on the Friday before
Labor Day.
Labor Day. I was gonna call it Memorial Day, before Labor Day at 1 PM. Do I have a second?
To be clear, the motion on the floor is a motion in favor of closing township offices at 1 PM on September the 1st, 2023. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I will second that motion.
There's a second. You may now discuss the motion.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor of approving the revised motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mike, the written motion will need to be amended. Before it's
I
executed.
have it changed on here to Motion to consider closing all town offices September 1st, 2023 at 1 P.M.
Okay, now is there a motion to DC, New Britain DC Limited Partnership request to release site improvement funds?
Oh, so do we need to make the motion before, I'll make the motion
Is
to
there a second?
approve the release.
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this is some cleanup left or clean up the project that was started back in the 2000s, maybe even sooner. Phil's nodding his head. I guess back to the 90s. The original developer has now sold the property. You actually have to JG Petrucci is working on some concept plans and has been in front of you and the planning commission. The prior owner has asked for a bond that's been sitting there with the township. It used to be a letter of credit, converted to a bond back in 2010. Substantial amount of the work was completed. All the required public improvements are completed. And the $300,000 bond, which was originally only, I think, $200,000, was sitting there for on-lot improvements. Well, they never decided to move forward with the on-lot improvements around the building. And they're now coming in to do a new building. This would be where your assisted living facility is proposed. So there's no need to hold on to this. As I mentioned at the last sentence, they'll be required to post security for all the improvements when that new project is built. So I see no need to hold on to this bond any further. Consulted with township staff, solicitor's office, they agree. So I'm recommending that you release bond 822-03762 to New Britain DC Limited Partnership.
Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions?
Yeah.
All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to consider waiver of land development for 1500 Manor Drive with conditions. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
For a second,
I'll second.
discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, can you read the condition out loud for the record? On the motion sheet. I believe it's conditioned upon stormwater review and compliance with our stormwater ordinance by the engineer as a condition.
Waiver of land development 1500 Manor Drive per the attachments. And condition upon the township engineer reviewing the plans with stormwater compliance. And that's what the motion, we have a motion and a second for. Any further questions?
I'd just like to just make a clarification or statement so people know what we're talking about, that this is for a redo of a patio at the Madison Apartments off of County Line Road and Manor Drive.
All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we have a motion to consider hiring Private Techno, the 300th anniversary fireworks celebration. Per the attachments and condition upon Pyrotechnica providing a certificate of insurance acceptable for the township solicitor. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussions?
Just have a couple questions when I was reading through the contract. Do we have a rain date for this project?
Yeah.
No. So so the rain date, yeah,
what
so
happens
then,
if it rains?
well, no, because then I was reading that if we contact them before they leave the building, we have to pay $1,000.50 plus half of the project's $6,500. But if we contact them after they've left the building to come here, it's $2,800. Do we already have not a schedule, procedure, yeah, protocol in place? Sorry, I'm thinking, yeah.
To make a decision.
Yes, when and how and why?
Do not know that. Right?
That decision would be made first thing in the morning along with the fall festival, which they would get a phone call at approximately 5 or 6 a.m. That's how we handle all of our events to make sure it gets posted to the website. So if there is a cancellation, it should take place well in advance of them leaving their facility that day.
Mhm.
I believe, we haven't coordinated with them when they're getting set up. We still have to determine that.
Mhm.
But I don't believe they would show up until later that afternoon to start setting up for this evening's fireworks.
How local are they? Whereabouts?
Westchester,
Westchester?
Yeah, I believe it's Westchester.
Okay,
I'd recommend, obviously, in the ongoing discussion with them, even if, assuming the contract is approved.
Mhm.
Mr. Walsh can clearly reach out to them and just reiterate, hey, what's your drop dead date? At what point do we need to let you know if it is raining that we're canceling, so we minimize that expense? That's as simple as a phone call.
Although with the
Yeah.
fireworks, we could have a rain date.
I believe it was discussed to have a rain date for that.
We can't have a rain date for Fall Festival, but we
No,
can have a rain
but
date for the
For the,
fireworks.
for the fireworks specifically, has been discussed. I don't know if it's at the tricentennial committee meeting or if it's at the safety meeting. I know that has been a subject that
Discussed.
has been discussed, having a rain date. for
Must
that.
have been the safety committee. I don't recall it at the tricentennial.
They blur together.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, so that means we will either be paying 7,500 or, well, I'd assume only 7,500. No matter if we have it or not. That's the way I read the contract. So in the event the customer does not choose to reschedule another date or cannot agree to a mutually convenient date, they will be entitled to $6,500
That
plus
will
whatever our council.
then we'll
Cancel it.
definitely have a rain date.
I mean, the simple thing is just to move it one weekend later. I mean, that's a,
So we should have that discussion and procedure put in place pretty quickly. Who's in charge of dealing with the pyrotechnics?
That would be the tricentennial committee.
I mean, was there somebody on the tricentennial committee
Did you have
specifically?
something to add to?
No.
Oh, okay,
Well,
Yeah.
Just go to calculations.
okay.
Dale Rimmer had brought this company in. I think they did the fireworks for the New Britain.
Bob Schultz.
Oh, they did them at,
They
Covered
did the
Bridge.
covered bridge part.
The New Britain Business Alliance used
Mhm.
them, so.
That would be Bob. Okay,
And Christine has been dealing with them directly. We have a staff
Okay.
member that has taken over direct communication with them.
I
Okay.
confess I did not review the contract because we have someone else that's
Already
doing
done.
it.
I reviewed it,
And
I reviewed it and told the township staff it looked appropriate.
no
Yeah.
good could come from having another attorney look at it.
but that's the question. It's like if we don't want to lose all that money and still have the chance of having fireworks, we should have a rain date.
Mhm.
So maybe we should ask Christine to start inquiring about that,
Okay,
if it's possible.
it is possible.
And
We just have
That's
to,
what I'm saying. I think the simplest thing most of the time with rain dates is you move it
one week,
one week. I mean,
Okay.
which
that's
would
a
be
simple
September
answer,
30th.
but I will have Christine start working on confirming that and setting that date as part of the advertisements as we move forward.
Okay,
And notify the baseball league. Because they may have to make adjustments to their schedule if we have a rain date.
I would also
It's-
point out that the contract that you're considering may be read. If you, the paragraph that's being talked about, in the event the customer does not choose to reschedule another date or cannot agree to mutually convenient date, Pyrotechno shall be entitled to $6,500.
Yes,
That's not an additional $6,500.
no, that's half
That's,
of what
that's
we,
half of the total,
yes,
yes.
yes, that's all.
I just want to make
understand.
sure it was clear to
No, it's
everyone.
not extra.
I don't know that it would interfere with any of the sports leagues because,
Tampa does.
yeah, but
Yeah,
they do
set
have
up.
set up during the
And
afternoon.
blocking off
Yeah,
stuff and whatever,
Yeah.
so just
plus
to
the
notify them
volunteers
that-
that are needed for parking and that kind of thing, so.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
Motion for Lundy Valley TNT softball tournament in October. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the softball tournament, as proposed in the attachment
I'll
for
second,
the dates, for the dates of October 21st and 22nd.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Right,
Is there a motion to do the amended stipulation of settlement for 100 Stewart Lane per the attachments?
Move that the board approve the amended stipulation.
For a second,
second that.
any discussion? All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Wait, do we
Would we like
want to
to-
clarify what it is,
Yes,
Craig?
right, Vaughan?
Sure.
Oh, this, the amended stipulation, I'm sorry, I'm still looking at the fireworks. The amended stipulation is, was originally a case that dates back to 2001. The property in question was at that time split by, court-ordered stipulation and agreement between, mixed medical office use and child daycare use. The applicant, or the owner came back to us recently and requested that the township consider amending that stipulation. No change could be made because it's a court order unless it was agreed to by both sides, because it's a stipulated court order. This is essentially an agreement to adjust the ratio between the medical office and the child daycare to allow for a larger, and expanded child daycare with, more children, more space, etc.
Are you from, the daycare?
I am the council, so I'm the council for the medical office. So there are 4, it's a physical therapy office, and then we have the child daycare, which is a good arts school. And so the ratio is just making it previously had been approved so that there would be 3 medical offices, but there really only is a physical therapy practice there. And the good arts school is extremely popular and would love to stay and has a very long waiting list. So the idea is to modify the agreement so that a portion of the property that's currently not being utilized can be utilized for the daycare, and the physical therapy will still be there, which is lower impact as compared to say pediatrician or dentist office. But it really is just kind of a real allocation of space, and I did a quick napkin math, which I shouldn't be doing. I'm a lawyer. But it does
I hear you.
actually come out, the square footage actually is going to move it, because that student has a little bit more square foot per student than it even is currently, if they max out at the maximum capacity that's being proposed.
Does the maximum capacity of the Goddard School, would that erase your waiting list?
My waiting list, I'm close to June 2024. So the intent is to put 60 more children in the annex. It's 5,000 square feet is what's available. So I could put 3 older rooms, and one of the rooms being a multi-purpose center. So that on days when there's smoke from Canada and we can't go outside, or it rains for a week straight, or the children right now can't go out. So this will enable us to have a multi-purpose room to enable relay races and a rock climbing.
The current court mandated, child cap is 115 children. This agreement would raise it to 175 children. With corresponding, increases in the number of the square footage allowed
So
for the.
we're allowed one child underneath 40 square feet. So each room would be able to have 20 children. And then I'm having a steam room also to have like separate too. And our playground is legally also already big enough to have the entire school. I'm allowed 140 children on any given day. I only have 160.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Information items, township manager report.
I'm gonna do my second one first, pass around. The 300 committee has finally gotten the sample file. We're only going to be making 300 of these, and we're looking to put them on sale this week on our website and for people to come in and purchase to celebrate our 300th anniversary. The other item I have on there,
Oh,
well,
How much?
how much are they?
$40 per
I'll take
file.
They're not for sale yet. They're not even made yet. Yes.
They were made by someone from Mercer Tiles.
No,
I
But-
don't recall the company, but it was
Sort of.
not Mercer Tile.
it's not Mercer.
Whispering Hill Studio. There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, we're ordering them in
Yeah.
small batches so that we don't have loads of them on site, so we're doing them in batches with 100 of them and start to get rid of them. We'll order another batch.
As we start to sell them,
Yes.
we'll order them.
Sure, company logos.
Yeah, right.
The other item I had to just talk about, I received from the Bucks County Planning Commission, an open space plan update proposal. I just wanted to know if the board had an opportunity to look that over and how they would like me to proceed with that, if they would like to see that on an agenda to be signed in the future or not. I'd just like a little bit of guidance from this board about that proposal.
Well, I've looked at it, and I share a concern about the proposed cost of it. I'm thinking perhaps someone should go back to whoever met with the prior manager to discuss, and I'll be happy to attend that meeting myself, to discuss if there's any way we can sort of whittle it down a little bit.
Maybe
Since
break
it's
it
just
in-
an updating of a plan.
Maybe
not
break it into phases or something.
Something.
Yeah.
It does seem just it's not a private organization, it's a government organization, it would seem. Part of their reason to exist is to assist us to do this. There might be some misunderstanding of what we were looking for. So perhaps another telephone call or meeting to discuss our actual needs and what we're looking for might be appropriate. That's my opinion.
I tend to agree with that. I think it'd be good to sit down with them and make sure that they're quoting us based on what we really want to try to do.
Yeah, the base cost seems reasonable for what their work is, but the optional professional survey, which is pretty much the same cost as the base, I'm not quite sure what that is. So,
There's certain stuff we can, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what we
Get
need
our
to
planner,
survey.
Judy, get our planner involved. I mean, at some point, if they break it down, there's certain tasks
Right.
we can do.
That's why I think it'd be good to.
Yeah.
Break it down.
Well, that is optional. I wouldn't think that we'd have them do any surveying.
well, is it a professional survey as in, are we surveying
Yeah,
different people? Or is it a survey of our parks as in an engineering survey? So,
That's a good point. I don't know.
so a little more thought.
So I think it needs to be looked at more before we see it
I will
again.
convey that to our director of planning and zoning and have him start working on setting up another meeting, which I will put out to the board for, as we have in the past, for up to 2 of you to attend if you'd like.
All right,
The other, before I interrupt, sorry, sir, Mr. Chairman. Holly Polito is here, who is a representative on our EMS that has a short update for the board on what's going on over at Chalfont EMS.
Like 3 years ago, I was appointed as your liaison for the ambulance squad board. In January, I became the president of the board. Had some conversations with the previous manager and wasn't sure if the information was relayed to you all. First, I want to thank you for the very generous and amazing support that you give us. We would not be in the shape we are in without your support. So we greatly appreciate that, especially as our equipment is changing out. We were able in 2022 to completely pay off the mortgage, so the last $250,000, we took it out of the bank and paid the mortgage off, so that is gone. 2 months ago, we've had a new ambulance on order. This December will be 2 years, and we still don't have it. We're hoping this Thanksgiving that it will come in. We keep waiting because the price point on that one is tremendously better than anything that is out there now. We were offered a new ambulance 2 months ago, which was in the July parade. But that one was $200,000. before we outfitted it, it was about another $100,000. So by the time the stretcher is $30,000, a heart monitor is $50,000. Like, by the time you put everything in it, it's rather expensive. So we do have that one. And we have one that is quickly aging out, so hopefully this other one will come in. We do have another one on order that we ordered a year later, so there's 2 more on order. We are hoping to actually pay cash for the very next one. Hopefully, the collections pick up a little bit. Right now, we're probably only getting 70 cents on a dollar in collecting our AR, which is industry standard. It's a big industry mess. We're hoping to be able to put the money aside to pay cash for the other one as well, rather than having interest. I really talked them all about interest. Much to their dismay. I'm like, no. Pima says 2%, but at 35 years and the unit's dead in 7. Like, go do the math and the interest. No, I'm gonna do that. Yeah. So we're working on to pay cash for everything. So that's where your support is tremendous. It's a big help. I also wanted to let you know that yesterday we had a really bad accident with one of the rigs. They were hit head on the bridge in Sellersville, where when you go across the bridge, the firehouse is there on the left. So they were on a bridge. They did their best trying to get out of the way, and the guy hit them head on. So that ambulance has been totaled. For right now, we are fine to keep our coverage 100% for our immediate area. We have been covering as well, which is why they were up there.
I was gonna say, why were they in Sellersville?
Because we have been covering, Grandview is not able to cover their territory 100%. There have been 2 fatalities up that way because it takes us 20 minutes to get there, and it was heart issues and things. So in trying to do what's right for the people, we've been trying to help cover up there. Clearly right now, since one's in the shop and we only have one left, we won't be able to help cover them. But we are trying to grow, and we are working with those township managers and everything to get contracts in place that would then help facilitate and support, because we can't afford to continue to cover them without support from those townships as well. But it's been forever, and I just wanted to come in and give you guys information. We've been sadly extremely busy. Really busy with the truck up there as well. Which helps because it brings in more money instead of them just sitting, but Medicare takes minimum 90 to 120 days to even think about it. And then they only pay what they want. Insurance, they have caveats for this, and it depends on the person's insurance coverage. So then a chunk of that is normally you have to go to the patient, trying to collect that. So that's why right now I would say it's about 70 cents on a dollar for able to collect.
Has there been any attempt by EMS or EMS group to finally convince our legislature to change the law to have the EMS paid directly?
We have to have more money than the insurance company. Not long ago, in front of the Republican committee, the manager of the EMS squad in Bethlehem went and presented in front of them, same exact issues that we have. I mean, it is across the country, and if they don't fix it soon, the entire industry is just going to collapse. It's pitiful what we pay the EMTs and the paramedics. There's no way for any of the ambulance squads to pay all that much more unless you're someone like Lansdale that has a ton of the manufacturers and all that give them money every year. So like, they could pay a bit more because they have a lot of donations coming in that we just don't have access to in our township.
You still run the subscription service, correct?
Yes. we
What's
get
your
about 90,000 a year out of that.
what's your
Our
kind of
payroll-
percentage of
Our payroll alone is about 650,000.
how
Our
many?
budget's like, I think this year's budget was $1,017,000.
How what's the percentage of residents that actually subscribe?
Not all that high. Part of the problem, I think, is a lot of them still think that we're tied to the firehouse. So they don't understand when they donate to the firehouse that we're not actually benefiting from any of that. For the fall festival, I actually have been working on artwork and everything to order coloring books with our name and all on them, some pens, and I found little ambulance stress things that we can have our name on. Because I felt like we needed to do some marketing to kind of get our name out there. This is who we are not part of the fire company. Just to help facilitate that, to maybe help raise the participation in the membership drive, because it used to be better than it is now, and I don't think it's because we've done anything wrong, I think it's just lack of visibility and lack of information out there.
Perhaps
Yeah.
for our next newsletter, we could have an article about your subscription service and
We just sent out like an update on our subscription, that would be probably good timing, because it's year round, it's on the website. Anybody can
But
donate whenever they want.
But this would go out to all township residents and it would explain the crisis problem with EMS funding
Yeah,
and,
we could certainly. like,
and here's the coupon to send in your subscription.
Well, and explain with that subscription, then anything that your insurance company doesn't pay, we do not bill you for the balance if you have subscribed. So we want to try to get that information out. We do mail every household twice a year. Whether or not they open the envelope. It's
Right.
a whole nother
We
story.
need to see it all as many times as possible.
Yeah, so, you know, that was part of why I've been trying to come for months and then I don't pay attention to what you guys are here. And, had been having conversations with the previous manager and things, so, and I was like, I just need to go. And put a schedule together, and if you guys want any kind of numbers, like what our budget's looking like, what our capital plan's looking like, what our call volume is, we have all those reports every single month. What our call volume's been by township, where we are, what we're doing. So any information you want that way.
We usually get that from the fire company, so if it wouldn't be a problem, I don't know that we need it every month, but maybe a quarterly update or something.
Sure.
Those reports, I don't know if Shell sends us
I
the
think
finance.
Russ probably.
I don't know if
sent
Russ
it,
sends us the financial ones, the call ones. There is on the board SharePoint, a fire, there's an EMS folder that has the monthly reports from both Central Bucks Regional EMS and Chalfont EMS.
Okay.
That has call matrices.
Yeah,
I
'cause I
don't,
know Russ shares certain pieces, yeah.
I don't know if he's shared I don't recall ever seeing the financials, but I know he does share the monthly calls. And those reports are available in the folder for the board to see in the monthly reports.
But yeah, so I just wanted to update and say,
Thank you.
it's been way too long, I should have been here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
our EMT and our paramedics, thank goodness, they were definitely feeling it today, but they are okay, and we did not have a patient in the ambulance that's about that. From the board, one of our days. That's gonna hurt a little bit, but we will be fine here. And we are always 100% coverage, we do everything we can to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Departmental reports.
It's been, but I'm gonna turn it over to Chief.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have two items that were not on my report that I'd just like to let the board know about. One is the Central Bucks Regional Police Department will be providing accommodations to two of our officers for a call that they assisted on last April. That happened in Chalfont, and that will be presented accommodations on this Thursday at their meeting for their
Regional place.
the other item was, I sent an email out today about the Bucks County DUI central court system. Just want to make sure if there was any questions about that. Basically, it is something that will save time in that officers won't have to go to court. So it'll save some overtime money as well. And then it keeps the officers on the street. So those are the three key things. The district attorney is asking the chiefs to write an endorsement basically for the petition that they're sending to the PA Supreme Court. To support the initiative. So there's no objections from the board, I'll probably take care of that. Otherwise, everything else is in my report. Then, in case you have any questions. Oh, the hybrids in the lot.
Wow.
Maybe the only way we get for a while.
And we've been waiting 2 years for that.
But is it upfitted?
It's updated and it's going to be, it's going to display and sign tomorrow to get graphics.
Okay.
It'll be on the street by the end of the week.
Thank you. Good to hear some good news there.
Yes, I'll
Somebody
bring
could
it
get
up.
it.
It took a while.
Ordering.
Solicitors report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, you received a copy of the written solicitor's report earlier today. All other updates I had for the board were given in executive session before this public meeting. I did fail to bring up one issue. I asked for the board's indulgence. I need to speak with you for no more than 5 minutes in an executive session after we're done today to discuss a real estate matter.
Engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have our August engineers report. It's up to date. I really don't have any additions other than we continue to support Mike with the Coleman property, the Greenway Trail. I think he provides some update to you on trying to get everything ready to go for out the bid. And then I guess after that's done, we'll work on the Coleman
We ran into
with his snag.
Stuff has to be reworked with the proposed budgets. In regards to how our in-kind services were calculated. I had to rework the wages, so we have to redo that budget before we submit it. So it's gonna delay a little bit, but I'm waiting for DCNR to get back to me with those new calculations to make sure they're acceptable. As far as that, to make sure we can get reimbursed properly.
That was the one that Chris Stanford
Yeah.
gave you.
Yep, correct.
And he never had issues doing it that way before.
We, in the previous grants we used, at least I came in at a later date, we didn't have in-kind services as part of those projects. So in talking with our project managers from both grant projects, while they would be fine with us using prevailing wage numbers, if it was a contractor doing the work for us internally, they want to see how we calculate not only wages, but how we're including benefits as part of that, such as PTO, health insurance, different things like that can be included in the wages. So I used what we have used in the past for FEMA to come up with those wages. So they're not exactly what we pay employees, they're elevated because of it factors in benefits to make sure that we're covering those costs when they do that work out there. So we just need to make sure that budget is correct before we submit it and put it out to bid to make sure we're not violating any of the grant agreements and we're properly covering those costs. So that's the only delay we have right now.
And we are not going to be running out of time to use the grant.
No, we asked for an extension through the end of 2024, and usually once you go out to bid and start the project, they're pretty good at giving extensions as needed. I don't see this going beyond the end of 2024 because thanks to Gilmore's help, I'd like to see this bid before this year's out with a plan to start the work early next year, if not this year. So.
And I lied, it was in my report. I Janine already had that updated, but I knew Mike had a little bit of snag with nothing out of our control, but that is moving forward and hopefully everything's ready to go by the end of the year. And then we'll start working on the next phase of the Coleman property that we kind of put that on a hold. Baker's not involved in that, so we'll get going on that then.
What are supervisors' comments?
I cannot think of anything at the moment. I know you do.
I have a few things. First of all is, I would like to thank all of the working members of the Tricentennial Committee with a small token of our appreciation, i.e. I'd like to splurge and give each one of them one of those tiles as a thank you gift. And because there's been a lot of work done on that committee. And there's a lot of work still to do. And then, of course, the day of the fall festival, there's going to be a lot of work also. Secondly, I would like to get an answer to the people that have applied for the Environmental Advisory Council. Certainly by the beginning of September, or perhaps we could just submit our lists of people we want on the committee. I will be contacting many of whom I know personally to see what they would like to get started on or what they think they're going to be doing. I know there's some issues about how are they going to fit in with our other committees. But I think a little research with surrounding townships would tell us how that works, and no sense reinventing the wheel. We can steal their ideas and use them to, which would also
Not steal, borrow.
borrow creatively. So I think it's important that we get started on that. Exhibit 1 is the discussion today about planting trees and others to just not let this area become overgrown on the new development. That's something that they could certainly talk with the developer and help them plan something out, because we have some professionals that have offered to get on there. The third and final will be the state of the front of this building, i.e. the gardens. I'm told that what used to be handled by our maintenance individual has been turned over to Park and Rec. And even without a plan to replant that as of yet, the weeds, etc., are unsightly and it needs to be addressed. It does not make a very good first impression for people coming to this building to see the state of that, which the EAC would also be able to help with.
Well, I would like to see the EAC, the candidates that we have not already met, come before the board and talk to them before we make any decisions.
Should we invite them for the next meeting?
I think we need to reach out to, there's 5 of them, 4 of them that are new.
That we have not met.
Yeah.
So,
By not met, we mean not already part of another
yes,
township committee, right?
yes. People that we have not already spoken to.
See
before.
who's available to come to our next meeting, and if,
Well, our
and if
next
they're
meeting
not,
is at 10 a.m.
right,
So,
so
it may have to
we
be,
may have to,
well, they may be able to come at 10 a.m.
yeah,
Give them the option.
or the meeting after. but-
So Mike, would you be able to reach out to the new candidates? Mike,
Yes.
would you be able to reach out to them for the 10 o'clock meeting?
I will confirm I will send my
Candidates?
list of candidates to the chair and vice chair to confirm
Mhm.
the individuals that they would like to come, and then I will call them and arrange that for, I believe it's the September 11th and 15th, see which meetings they can attend.
11th and
25th.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah, 15 sounds too close, 25th, right.
I actually have a question about our meeting on the 25th, just realizing I looked at the calendar. It's Yom Kippur that night. Do we normally have meetings on Yom Kippur?
well, Yom Kippur moves around a lot, so it's not
Yeah.
always easy
Yeah, it
to
wouldn't
track,
be.
but
Just a
I
question.
don't have a
Am I
a
hearing you would like
conflict.
to cancel the 25th?
No, no, I would like to investigate, because we've moved it back one from the 4th, which is Labor Day, to the 11th, and then we were 2 weeks later to 25th. I just don't know if we'd ever had a meeting on.
I couldn't
Yeah.
answer that. The only time I've moved them around unless we've done it as a board is when we make the schedule, we kind of try and make sure they're spaced as well as
Evenly,
possible. and
yep.
When it falls on a holiday that the offices are closed, we move it back.
Okay.
So,
It's not showing up on my calendar. Okay. I mean. Is it on the 25th and ends at sundown or starts at sundown on the
The
25th?
calendar just says the 25th is Yom Kippur, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Since I'm not in school anymore, I
Yeah,
don't know
I
what
don't know the
the
answer.
schedule
Well,
is.
it's a Monday too, so it wouldn't.
Don't they normally have public schools take off on the 25th?
I believe it starts Sunday night at sundown.
Okay.
It starts on the
So-
24th.
it's
And then
sundown.
goes through
Sunday.
till
Usually it
Sunday,
starts and then goes through to the following,
sundown.
Correct.
because the kids have all that.
24th to the 25th. So it starts at sundown on the 24th and ends at sundown on the 25th. So technically, our meeting starts at 7 o'clock,
Which would be.
which would be after.
The holy day.
Okay. You have any?
I don't.
Okay. Is there any public comment on any item of discussion?
I would like to ask a question.
Mhm.
Can you address it? My name is Craig Kane. I've been a resident for 37 years here in this fabulous.
What?
There's a project that's being.
Hold on, we need your address for the minutes,
Oh, I
sorry.
know.
And my name was Lee.
Kings.
Thank you.
My concern is about a water control problem. I've been fighting this battle for years. There's a development going on now that I feel as though the site engineer has failed to provide 15–20% of collecting water. I am getting water runoff still from this project to this day. I've called the Bucks County Conservation Bureau. They came out, they asked the builder to dig a little pit, fill it with stone, but I'm still getting water from this project. I was instructed to come here and bring it to your attention. And the other object or topic, as I tried speaking with the builder about plantings for buffers. Being very evasive, says he's gonna give you 22 trees, which is nice of him, but I'd like for the township to step in and ask him to provide a buffer to block car headlights and lights from the building. It's a 3-story building and it's basically glaring me in at my backyard.
Is this the next to Spatola's, the county builders
Yes,
project?
the, apartment building.
Well, we defer to our engineer usually about any issues.
I would
You-
love to have it one.
You've
side.
contacted the township in the past, correct?
I have,
You have contacted our office in the past, multiple times, correct?
yes, I have.
Okay. I think it's a little disingenuous to, they think this is a new problem. This has been an ongoing problem.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So there's a lot of history I
Yeah.
think they should be made aware of. I can update them.
Sure.
You don't agree with my recommendation, you don't agree with the county. That's a court approved plan. There's still gonna be water going off your let me finish. I've looked at everything. I have every report. I've met with that builder. He's been meeting with you until it got personal, which I was advised a couple weeks ago. He stopped meeting with you.
That's not true.
Okay, well, that's what I heard and that's what's been documented. I was glad that you guys were working out together because I have to follow the approved plan and the court approved plan. There is water that's still gonna go on your property.
This failed.
It hasn't failed. It meets the ordinance. It meets the county order. Your opinion doesn't match the county or the
They
township.
have it on site.
I've been out there about 1,000 times. I know I don't go out with you. I can't sit there and meet with you when you've already met with the township in the past. In fact, the Spatola's property is contributing to your problem, correct? Okay. Did we not have a condition to have stormwater put in on the Spatola's property and they would not allow the developer to go on? Do you remember that?
Correct.
And it had to be removed at a public meeting. I'm not going to get in the middle of Spatola's property issue, water issue and yours. The developer has met all the ordinance and above and beyond. And that's why they, What?
I disagree.
That's fine, but then you have to take it to another avenue. You don't agree with me. It's fine if you want to come to the board, but this is going for so long that you haven't come to a board meeting years ago. In fact, Mike has a file, your drainage on Cedar Hill Road. I mean, I know all the issues. But you're coming in like this is a new problem. It's been a
Well,
long,
it's time to.
before the developer even built.
It's the time to get the problem solved.
No, it's too late. It was already built, it's already being built, it's already been approved by
It's
the
not
county.
complete.
But the state approved it, the county approved it, we approved it.
How come we don't approve it?
How come what?
How come we don't approve it? I'm the resident. I'm the one that suffered.
All right, well, I'm not gonna get into any more.
You apparently did.
What?
You apparently.
You, well, no, once you start threatening litigation to the township staff,
I'm
and
not
our
threatening
office,
litigation.
you have in the past, you continue to do it.
I have
And
never.
so they have followed every ordinance, the approved plans, the state guidelines.
They missed like 20% of the lot.
They're allowed to do that, I know. It doesn't say that no more water will go on as long as it's reduced. So if there's 20 CFS going there now, they have to reduce down to 15 or 18. It doesn't mean no water will go, not zero CFS, whatever flows that way now. So Spatola's water goes on the back of your property. They contribute. We can't control that. They
You
have.
could have when
No.
Spatola's built the building and you didn't force them to do any.
I was not involved in that. That was not land development. I was not involved in that.
Oh, so now it's not gonna recall.
Well, it was a fire. No,
And it was
the
fine.
township didn't ask us to review anything. That was a fire and it was, they were allowed to build. If there's no reviews of stormwater management, no reviews by our office on that entire project.
Yeah.
It's not required.
They have a right under the building code to build that building back again.
It's a completely new building, basement.
I'm not getting a legal issue.
The engineer's point is that after a fire, you don't have to go back through all of the development things and bring those issues before the board. You just get to rebuild your building without having to worry about those
Put this
things.
way.
That's why it wasn't addressed at that time.
I'm reviewing a patio for apartment complex. I review every project, but they were exempt from that. And so they were exempt from stormwater management. They're exempt from.
Well, I'm just
review.
stating that there's still a problem.
And I'll be more than happy to contact the developer, but he's already reached out to me. So, and I've been out there. I'm out there several times a week, to be honest.
Sir, as long as the developer remains within the boundaries set by the approved plans, he's within compliance with what has been approved by the board and approved by the state and approved by the county. If he falls outside of those parameters, that's a different issue. As long as what's being measured off the property is within those parameters, there's not much we could do.
But the plan failed. I'm still getting worse.
But you were getting water before, sir. You were getting water before.
Yes, I was.
So are you getting more water or are you still getting the same water?
I'm still getting results of the stormwater washing out my driveway.
That was going on before the development,
It said it wasn't.
but you're misleading them.
The point, I think the point they're making is unless the plan called for that water to stop doing that, which I suspect it didn't, then the plan hasn't failed. You're taking umbrage with the fact that the plan didn't address the issues that you're suffering from, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and
Now, we were told in a group that, as this gentleman pointed out, that the builder was gonna take care of Spatola's water issue to help us out. And that has not happened.
and that
I'm
We
not
have-
blaming him for that.
that was addressed in previous public meetings. There was a plan to do exactly that. The owners of Spatola's refused to allow entry onto their property to address the issue, so it had to be left alone because without their approval, it can't be done.
They designed it, I approved it, it was a condition approved by this board, and it was that it would not grant an easement to go construct it, have it be removed from the approval.
Now, can we do anything about the plantings of trees, the block? I've reviewed what I could see on their print, and they really don't have much in the way of a buffer.
Okay, what I would suggest is you addressing in writing via email to the director of planning and zoning or the assistant manager, Mike Walsh, probably both. Document exactly what you want us to look at. They will look at it either themselves or then advise my office to go out and look at it.
Right.
Okay, the director's on vacation this week. Put in writing what you want. And that way then we have a record of it because we keep repeating some of the issues that I cannot help you with. I just can't. Or it's Public Works that needs to go out and look at the road, and if they choose not to try to address if it's a private property issue versus Cedar Hill Road drainage issue, because that's where the file starts about the drainage at your driveway, which is way before the development of county builders.
Well, it just. It has nothing to do with county builders themselves.
I know it doesn't.
It could be any builder, just the site engineer. And didn't capture all the water from the property. But thank you. I
Thank
can
you,
do
sir.
that.
Is there anybody else with any public comment? Seeing none, any other announcements? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Can you
The
I
meeting,
think, do you need to do anything for
Announce
the
that.
executive session?
You should announce the next meeting and also, just, I already did announce it, but you should just point out that we're gonna take a brief executive session after this meeting to discuss a real estate matter.
Okay, we're gonna go to executive session after this meeting. And our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th at 10 a.m. This meeting will be is being videotaped and will be available in the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay. Now is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Give a second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.